So today we're going to be talking about Aquaman 2: The Lost Kingdom. We're going to get into lots of cool stuff, including some comic origins, some comic recommendations, breaking down the movie, maybe some of the Easter eggs, and then we're going to talk about an update on our box office draft.
I want to start by saying Andrew fell asleep during the first Aquaman. So the fact that he made it through this one says that it's better, right? Did you like it better?
I liked it better.
But yeah, so we rate movies in 6 different categories. This helps us give a non-biased, as much as possible, non-biased review and rating for a movie. This is my lowest score. I gave it a 4 out of 10. What's going on here? There's so much happening.
Yeah, it's just, oh my God, there's just so much. It's
It's all, but I mean,
it's chaotic. I mean,
this is the same as a Star Wars fight scene. Like,
No, it's not. Look how much cleaner this is already.
but it's all about execution. You know, you can say like it's the same idea, but so yeah, look at this. It's just
We're following 2 ships.
following them very easily, right? Like.
There's some ships in the background.
bam.
My first question would be to Zach, and it would be, when you saw these picks, who did you think was going to win at the beginning of the year?
Welcome to Backseat Directing.
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew.
and Aaron, and today with Zach.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're doing a movie review on Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom.
3, 2, 1, action. The timing was perfect.
Yeah, I don't know why I high-fived instead of slapping our stick here.
So today we're going to be talking about Aquaman 2: The Lost Kingdom. We're going to get into lots of cool stuff, including some comic origins, some comic recommendations, breaking down the movie, maybe some of the Easter eggs, and then we're going to talk about an update on our box office draft because this is the last movie to come out for both of our teams, but for Aaron's team specifically. But before we get to any of that, welcome back to the show, Zach. It's been a really long time since we've had you. If people have been subscribed to us or watching for a while, following for a while, they
Zach's
definitely
famous.
remember you. Having been on like more of our episodes almost than anyone else, probably getting tied with Justin at this point.
Yeah, I think it was episode 102 that you were on last, and we just posted 152.
Dang. 50 episodes I've missed.
Zach's been very busy with making achievements in his personal life.
It's been 4 to 5 months.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
I'm glad to be back. I miss you guys.
I know, it's good to have you back.
But in honor of your return to the show, I guess the first question from here is, in general, what did you think about Aquaman 2: The Lost Kingdom?
I enjoyed it.
Zach's a big DC fan, just to set the stage.
I am a big DC fan, and I'm also not as critical as these guys are. But
Glad you're here
Not
today.
critical at all.
I'm glad you're here for today's episode.
I went in and I don't know. I had fun with it. I mean, it was definitely not like the perfect movie. It hasn't cracked any of my top, 10 lists or anything like that. But I enjoyed it.
I'd judge you so bad if it cracked your top 10. Aaron, what did you think about Aquaman 2?
I'm glad Zach's here to bring some positivity into this episode. It was okay. I feel like it was only fun because it was with you guys and we got to like turn over and look at each other and be like, oh, that was ridiculous. Or like, did you see that? That was ridiculous.
I feel
Not
like
necessarily because it was like a good movie.
I turned to you guys once or twice, actually, with a positive, like, oh, that was kind of badass, which we'll get into it more, but specifically with the scene where Aquaman comes into the house, or Black Manta comes into the house. Like, I turned to you guys and I was like, that was cool.
Like a 2-second shot out of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
But also, I'll say at the beginning of the episode, spoiler warning. Spoiler warning for Aquaman 2. We're going to get into spoiling the entirety of the movie. And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate anyone who clicked on this video. We've been kind of having some recent little growth spurt for our channel, which has been really nice, and getting a lot of views in some of our recent videos. Our most viewed video, Blue-Eyed Samurai, is just a few episodes back if you want to check
Best show of the
out.
year is what it's titled.
Best show of the year. If you want to check that one out, that is now our most viewed video. So thank you for joining us, whether you're new or returning. We really appreciate it. And just make sure to like, follow, rate, review, share with friends and family, and it means a ton. It helps us grow even more, and that's what we're here for. We want to grow this community and talk with you guys about movies. So
Absolutely. And we have a bunch of stuff coming out in the new year that we're excited to get out. We have a bunch of end of the year type topics that we want to talk about. One of which being the box office draft, which we're going to do a little bit of a tease of where we're at right now, where we're sitting, who's winning. and whatnot. And then the beginning of next year, we have to do our 2024 draft. That's exciting.
Yeah, 2024 is looking a little lean in my opinion.
Dude, 2025 draft is gonna.
Oh,
be
that's
so
gonna
good.
go buck wild. 2025 looks like the year for movies.
Yeah,
That's right.
But
Dude.
I kind of want to get into Aquaman because we're gonna have a lot to say here.
Yeah, we each did our first little like thoughts. Did you say yours? Like, what was your initial thoughts of Aquaman?
I thought it kind of like I said this to you guys earlier or last night, really this morning at 12:30 in the morning. That I feel like this movie harkened back to like some of like to me like feels like it reminds me of specifically Hellboy 2, The Golden Circle, which I feel like is a movie, or The Golden Army, which I feel like is a movie that's like just fun and you can't look at it too critically. And Aaron, I think you said something about it being like the way superhero movies used to be before they were really scrutinized and had the fan base that they do now. And I think that is a really fair comparison. Like this movie is, to me, nothing special. I feel like it comes out amidst like a bunch of other superhero movies and doesn't really like plant its flag in the ground like showing anything different. But it's just like okay, it's just fun. It wasn't. It was a total nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very cheesy, you know.
It's not for my specific tastes.
Yeah. So, sorry, my format on my computer here is all wonky, so it messed me up. But I want to start by saying Andrew fell asleep during the first Aquaman. So the fact that he made it through this one says that it's better, right?
But
Did you like it better?
I liked it. No, the first one is better.
Okay.
This one I had an energy drink earlier, like a little bit before going to see it, and I was like yawning throughout it. Because both Aquaman 1 and 2 I saw in theaters like late at night. We saw this last night, just the 9:20 showing, which for me is kind of late. It's a 2-hour movie. But yeah, I mean, I stayed awake through it, but I still feel like I've recently rewatched the first one, and I feel like the first one is better shot, more cohesive story, like a little bit less messy.
Yeah. We're going to do a little recap of the first one, and then we can kind of jump into the second Aquaman, The Last Kingdom. So, Andrew, what happened in this first movie? I've only seen it once, and it was at the beginning of this year, end of last year. Tell me what happened in it.
So Aquaman 1 starts out with Queen Atlanta fleeing her arranged marriage to King Orvax, who is kind of this like tyrannical, negatively viewed king of Atlantis at the time. She washes up on the shores of a lighthouse where Tom Curry, Aquaman's dad, finds her. He brings her in and helps her. She's kind of mending her wounds at this point. She washed up on shore. They fall in love. They have a child that they name Arthur Curry, who will come to be the Aquaman when he grows up. We see the people of Atlantis come back to take Atlanta back to force her into her arranged marriage. She fights them off, but ultimately decides to go with them to keep her baby daddy, her beloved, and her son safe. So she goes back and goes to be married to King Orvax, and she sires a child there, which is Aquaman's younger brother, Prince Orm. And then the next thing we see for Aquaman is he's aged a little bit. He's like a young elementary school age, maybe looking child, and that's where he learns he can talk to fish at this aquarium. The fish come to his aid where he's being bullied. Then we go a little further and a lot further. We skip to this sub being attacked by pirates, one of the pirates being David Kane along with his father. Aquaman comes to save the crew, and in doing so, he leaves David Kane's father, the pirate, to drown on this ship, where David Kane swears his vengeance against Aquaman, which will eventually lead him on the path to becoming Black Manta. Now, then Aquaman is skipping a little bit here, but Aquaman is driving along the coast with his dad, and a giant tidal wave comes up on the Earth, which is the first indication we see of King Orm attacking the surface world. He's sending tidal waves full of the Earth's garbage back onto the surface. Mera helps Aquaman save his father, and this is where Aquaman realizes that he cannot ignore his second half of his life. He cannot ignore King Orm's rise to power, because Orm is going to take the fight to the surface, so he has to take the fight to Orm to save the surface that he loves. He goes to Atlantis with Mera, where he meets up with Willem Dafoe's character, Vulko. That's his name.
Yeah.
So he meets up with Vulko, and Vulko unveils that although him and Mera are working alongside King Orm, they're secretly kind of traitors to him. They would be seen as traitors to Atlantis, kind of in the same way that like the Founding Fathers would be seen as traitors to the British, because they're undertaking this this journey to save Atlantis by betraying the throne. Now, this is where Volko reveals that he's been training Aquaman since he was young, training him eventually for the goal to have his claim to the throne and take over from Orm and be kind of a more righteous king. Now, Volko also shows them the Trident of Atlan, which is the new journey that they're going to set upon. The original plan is that they're going to go after the Trident of Atlan, they're going to free it, and by Aquaman picking up the trident, he will, by Atlanteans' most sacred law and their prophecy, reveal himself to be the true king, and then he'll take over the throne. Aquaman, they get kind of stupidly changes the plan when they get caught in their meeting by the Atlantean forces. He then challenges Orm to a fight. As he's losing the fight, Queen Mira steps in, saves his life, reveals herself to be what is seen as a traitor, and escapes in a ship with Aquaman. Then from there, they go to a desert. The desert, the kingdom there leads them to this device that will show them where they can find the Trident of Atlan. Mira and Aquaman use the device to discover that the Trident of Atlan is in the trench. This is a very dense moving plot. These movies are fast moving. So they find out that it's in the trench, but here they're attacked by Black Manta. So Black Manta has gotten this armor from Prince Orm, or King Orm at this point. He's gotten this armor that he spray painted black and outmoded to be the Black Manta armor out of Atlantean tech, and he attacks them where this battle ensues. They narrowly escape with their life, and Black Manta gets mortally injured. He gets thrown down this cliffside and falls into the water. Now, Mira and Aquaman, having just escaped, they're going towards the trench to find the trident. They get attacked by these like zombie-like creatures with a massive horde of them. They dive down into the water, and where they go deeper and deeper, being protected only by a flare. They get to this storm in the water that they have to dive into to escape the monsters. And there on the other side, they find this oasis where they find out that Queen Atlanta has been hiding this whole time. So they thought that Atlanta had been killed when Orvax found out that she sired a son on the surface world. She had been cast into the trench, but she, just like Aquaman and Mira, escaped to the storm and found this oasis where she survived from the creatures and has been living there. The only person who can go beyond the waterfall, though, to get the trident from Atlan is somebody who is a true king. So it has to be Aquaman that goes beyond. He sees a sea creature there. The Kraken creature tries to kill him, but he speaks with it. And she says the only one who's been able to speak with her in eons, the only one to converse with her was Atlan himself. So she gives him the chance to pull the trident, and he does, unveiling himself to be the one true king. From there, he forces himself to fly back to the field of battle where the Brine Kingdom is fighting with King Orm and the other forces he's built from there with Dolph Lundgren, Mira's dad. Aquaman comes in, turns the tide of battle. He takes Mira's advice and takes the fight onto the surface so that he can fight Orm on his turf. He wins the fight with Orm and sends Orm to prison, where he like gives him a wink and says, "Brother, when you're ready to talk, I'll be here." So he kind of setting up the events for the second movie that we lead into here. Aquaman accepts his role as king, and that brings us to the beginning of Aquaman 2.
Dang. That was a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot happened in this movie.
I tried to be succinct with it, but it is very dense in the plot.
That was good. That was good. That's one of the complaints that I have with this movie, is that so much happened. But I think the first one did explore all those things a little more thoroughly than the second one. What would you say the second one's about?
The second one,
you don't have to go as much detail, like a brief summary.
The second one is Aquaman struggling with his life being torn between two worlds on the surface and being the king of Atlantis. His mortal enemy returns from the first movie, with now having discovered the Black Trident, and Aquaman. Now we're going to spoil the movie. He kidnaps Aquaman's son to try to bring back this evil villain, and Aquaman goes and fights him and kicks his ass, but alongside his brother from the first movie.
Nice. Now, did you want to go into some source code before we go into the ratings and creators?
Let's
and
go
then
to the source code after.
After?
There's a lot of talking.
Okay. This movie obviously came out this year, 2023. It's rated PG-13. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes. I thought it was a little longer. IMDb has it a 6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes for the critics has it at 36% with 140 reviews, and then 78% with 250 audience reviews. The budget for this movie is $205 million, which could be skewed a little bit because of all the reshoots that they had. Wouldn't be surprised if it was actually more. The creators, So we talk about who's in front and behind the camera. Take it away.
All right, so behind the camera, we've got our director, James Wan, notably known for obviously directing Aquaman 1 and the Saw franchise, a bunch of other horror movies like Insidious, which is likely where he met Patrick Wilson, who comes to star in this movie. It's written by, specifically the screenplay, which is like the dialogue you'll see in the movie, and like the specifics of the movie are written by David Wesley Johnson McGoldrick. And then the story, like the overarching storyboard aspect of the movie, is done by that same individual along with James Wan, Jason Momoa, and Thomas Pa Sibit, whose name I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. The cinematographer is Don Burgess, who's been working since like 1979 as a cinematographer. He has a long career of movies, including Richie Rich with Macaulay Culkin. The editing is done by Kirk M. Morey. The music is by Rupert Gregson Williams. And the character of Aquaman, who they also get writing and story credits, are Mort Weisinger and Paul Norris. Now, that brings us to who is in front of the camera. Kind of some confusing names here, so I'm going to try to like iron out at the same time who is who with some of these Atlantean names for anybody listening who might have been confused. We did the same thing in our Avatar episode, describing what some of the names meant. So Jason Momoa is Arthur Curry or Aquaman or the King of Atlantis. Patrick Wilson is King Orm, but he can also be called Ocean Master. That's his comic book title and his name in the first movie. Black Manta, I'm hoping that I can pronounce his name correctly because it's, for me, a difficult one. It's Ya Abdul Mateen II. Mira is played by Amber Heard, who? Moving on. Nicole Kidman returns in this movie as Queen Atlana. Randall Park plays Dr. Stephen Shin, who is interestingly also a character in the comics that we'll get to later when we do our comic origins later in the episode. And then important character, Tom Curry, Aquaman's dad, is played by Timura Morrison. What else do they call him, Zach? You were saying it throughout the movie.
He plays Boba Fett.
Oh, that's why you said Boba. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's Boba Fett in Star Wars. Yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't know this until this movie. You pointed out to me. Dolph Lundgren plays King Nereus, which is also King Mira's dad. Martin Short voices King Fish, which is like the king of the Brine Kingdom, who gets his claw cut off in this movie. And the rest of these characters, and you might not recognize them.
I thought King Fish was the blue guy that they put the helmet on.
Oh, was that who Martin Short was?
Yeah, I think so.
Who was the king of the? Oh, the king of the Brine Kingdom was John Rhys Davies. Okay, you're right.
A lot of kings
catch.
down there under the sea.
A lot of monarchs.
Yeah, that's the distinction I was trying to draw, but muddied the waters a little bit. It's like these people have Atlantean names for one, and then they might just be called king or like another title like Ocean Master. So I think it can be really confusing.
Okay, you ready to break down the movie into our rating system?
Let's do it.
All right, so we rank movies off of 6 different categories, and that gives us
our... before we... Don't you normally do the budget, reviews, and ratings?
I already did.
Wow, I blanked. You did?
Where you been?
He did?
Yeah. You did your recap of the first movie, a quick little summary of the second. I did the IMDb scores and whatnot, and then I teed you up for the creators.
Just that whole thing.
That's okay. That's okay. You did really good on your part, though. But yeah, so we rate movies in 6 different categories. This helps us give a non-biased, as much as possible, non-biased review and rating for a movie. And the first category we have out of 10 points, and that is story, arguably one of the most important ones. And this is my lowest score. I gave it a 4 out of 10. What did you guys give it?
I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Okay, 4, 5, 6. I feel, let me justify my 4, and then we'll go to Zach's 6, and then we'll see if you're in the middle of that.
This is not his first time having to justify his 4.
It's not how you use it, baby. Unfortunately, Aquaman didn't use it very good. But I feel like there was just too much crammed into this movie. Part of that could have been all the reshoots and real life drama that got in the way of production, but it seemed like as soon as we got to a scene, that scene was solved over and we moved on to the next one really, really quick. Every problem that arose, they had a solution in a matter of seconds. Nothing was drawn out. There was no suspense, no tension. I didn't feel like the characters were in any real danger. There was no stakes, it felt like. I mean, they're running through the jungle and all those animals are chasing them or bugs are chasing them, like they solved that pretty quick. Maybe a few jokes in there. And then when they were underwater meeting that Jabba Fett King Master guy, or Jabba the Hutt looking guy, they beat him up pretty quick and all of his scary men, like he was supposed to be so intimidating, but then Aquaman beat him in 3 seconds. And then even at the end of the movie, at the big fight, nothing really happened. Black Manta got beat real quick. And then the brother ended up putting the blood on this pallet in 2 seconds, which was the whole mission of the movie. And then when I don't even know the guy's name, the guy who was in the ice the whole time that they were trying to free, when he got out,
Cordax.
yeah, as soon as
Cordax with a D,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
as soon as he got out of the movie or out of the ice, Aquaman hit him with two tridents and he was done. And it was like, oh,
It's the second trident that gets you.
yeah, I waited the whole movie for that. That was very anticlimactic.
What even earned it the 4 points for you? Jeez.
That they did it. That they made it.
It's like a test when you go and you get like X amount of points for just putting your name on it.
I gave it a 5 because I thought that like there were redeeming qualities that pulled it back up to me. For like a 5 is like hard to call the middle of the road. I feel like a 7 is like a C, is like middle of the road is like decent. A 5 is a little bit lower. So for me, I really like the environmentalist aspects. I think it's cool that they hit on that and that they dedicated to it from the first movie. I like the fact that they used a recurring villain from the first movie because I felt like there was more connection to Black Manta because they didn't just waste a villain from the first movie. They didn't like use Thor: The Dark World and just let's bring out some obscure Malekith that no one's like. They brought out a guy who had a cool motivation. There's like an emotional connection to Aquaman leaving his dad for dead in the first movie, and the actor's jacked, and I think he performs really well with the intimidation aspect. He's a strong aspect of this movie, along with Patrick Wilson. I thought he did a good job too as Orm. I thought that there were like some cool aspects, but then they kind of undercut them as well. I dragged it down to a 5 because, like, kind of like you said, the ending is super anticlimactic. They pull the rug out from under Black Manta and give the Black Trident to Orm instead, and then just the 2 Trident throws at the end was super anticlimactic. There's no real good fight. It felt really messy along the way. Like, I didn't feel enough of a connection to the things I should have felt a connection to. Like, I didn't feel a connection to Aquababy. I didn't feel a connection to like these fantastical worlds. Like,
No,
I seen somebody.
no, no.
That's from the movie. They just all scream no when Aquababy's kidnapped. But the dialogue felt cheesy at a lot of points. I wrote down some corny lines that I can read off here. It's a lot of ragging on the movie. I feel like it was fun, but I've seen people compare like the scene with the Jabba the Hutt monster to like the cantina scene in Mos Eisley in Star Wars, and it just didn't feel like it had as much charm or personality. It didn't feel like it had the same like love and care. The magical world reminded me of like Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it didn't feel as like fantastical. I didn't feel the connection to the desert world. I didn't feel the connection to like the Dark City Necros. Like, it just all felt like a CGI fest. It didn't feel like, which I know is a term a lot of people use, like, and I kind of use it begrudgingly because I feel like it's seen as pretentious to say that, but it just felt like a big fantastical like use of colors. It didn't feel like this world that I could like delve into and really fall in love with, like some of the other worlds I mentioned. So I feel like it kind of lacks substance in some of those areas, as well as lacking substance in some of the lines in the script. So here's some of the lines I didn't like. When he says, "Dad, you're the real hero." Felt super forced, felt like cliche and cheesy. And then it follows up with, "Sometimes not giving up is the most heroic thing you can do." It felt like I was watching like a PBS special. And then in Randall Park's log, which we talked about how the movie can be annoyingly expositional when we talked last night after the movie, he says, "We're about to hit the most dangerous one of them all. We've hit the other orichalcum factories," which orichalcum is a big thing in this movie that I should explain too. It's like this thing that's metaphorical for petroleum or gas in the real world. It's just like, it's this
They're
fantastical
taking pieces,
material.
and I know a lot of movies and stories take inspiration from everywhere. There's a lot of like big pieces taken from a bunch of movies, and it's all just compiled together. Like you said, Journey of the Center of the Earth. I even leaned over to Zach during it, and I was like, "This is like that movie."
Yeah.
That
Which Aaron hadn't said to me yet, so we both saw that comparison.
Yeah. And then that chemical power battery or whatever that we were just talking about
Or
That's
Calcum.
that's just like Avatar: The Way of Water, which is
Unobtainium.
also
It's
in
all
water.
just as cheesy as unobtainium, but actually orichalcum, one interesting thing about it is it's like historically written about as this like imaginary material, like Plato wrote about it, I think, in ancient Greece, about it being second only to gold. So it's like it's tied with Atlantis and mythological lore. So I thought it was just some stupid name, but like they took the name from something real. And then it's also obviously in the like the reference in the Aquaman comics from the lore.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But
Also, the end guy who's in the ice reminded me a lot of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, where they're trying to get the evil guy out. But I feel like even though that's probably like not the best Transformers movie, and by probably I mean definitely,
not.
I feel like their pacing was a lot better. You know, like you could at least connect with the characters more. The fights were actually drawn out and thought about, and the CGI looked phenomenal.
I can agree that the fights were better, and the CGI looks good.
Yeah, like
And
there was still like a
Transformers.
good payoff in Revenge of the Fallen in comparison.
But listen to these other lines. So Jason Momoa, when they're going through the forest, says, "You never had a slice of za, medium raw steak." I'm like, medium raw. What are you guys writing? Like, is this off the cuff? Like, is this written down on paper? And then right after that, Patrick Wilson's character Orm says, "I bet it mutated from the flora and fauna in a short amount of time," which feels like a sci-fi movie written by like Disney Channel original series. Like, I bet it mutated from the flora and fauna in a short amount of time. Why? What are you guessing at the time frame for? Like, what do you? Yeah, whatever. And then the guy who's attacking the ship. I'm gonna keep going on. The guy who's attacking the ship says. He says, take the island down, and they fire a bunch of rockets at the island where Black Manta has his base. And then immediately after that, he says, fire at will. So this guy's just sitting in his ship going, shoot. It's like Adam Driver in The Last Jedi. More. It's like, why is he just repeating the same line? I guess maybe they needed to fill space there or do some cuts or something to cut to another scene. And then the last one, as we already referenced, is they say, where's Junior? No. Yeah, that's the word. That's got to be one of the words. 3 different people shout no, and they all wait for the other one to finish saying no.
Did you mention the one where Aquaman comes in and he's like, "Stay away from my son"?
That's really bad too. There's like 3 instances of that because Queen Mara does the same thing, or Aquaman does it earlier where he's like, "Get your hands off my wife."
Yeah.
Keep my wife's name. That's what I thought of when he yelled at Black Manta for attacking his wife. But with all that said, I give the plot a 5. Zach, do you want to explain your 6?
Yeah, I thought that
This is the biggest thing for the movie, though. To be fair, we're spending a lot of time on plot, but this
Yeah.
is the bulk of a movie.
to me,
That's why it's our first category.
Yeah.
at the end of the movie, there's a scene where Ocean Master and Aquaman are talking, and Ocean Master says something along the lines of like, you're not as bad at this being a king stuff as you think you are. Like, you're willing to ask for help when you need help, and you're willing to do what's wrong when doing or you're willing to do what's right when doing what's wrong is way easier. And
You to ask for help even from your worst enemy. That was a cool line.
and like that little like conversation exchange between those 2 characters, I think kind of was a short summary of what the movie was. And I don't know, I thought it worked really well. Like the journey that Aquaman was on, from basically being a reluctant king to like ultimately putting, not just his kingdom first, but the whole world first.
But I feel like he was still a reluctant king at the end. And putting the whole world first was what he came into the first movie doing. So that's like the same static character that we had in the first movie. Like he only ascended to the throne of Atlantis as like
To protect
a duty to like protect the Earth and Atlantis from each other.
Yeah. But
And Atlantis still isn't happy that he's sharing all their technology.
It's like he's a good character for that, like, but it's not good character development. It's not like a change from the beginning. It's the movie is just like
I think like especially with like these superhero movies, not necessarily like character development is unnecessary, but I want the superheroes to be the superheroes, and like I think Aquaman does that throughout the 2 movies.
But the point of this movie was like just specifically, it was him fighting Black Manta. Like, it wasn't like, I know that he unveiled Atlantis to the world and they followed this like very much mirroring Black Panther 1 storyline. But like, there was no journey to get there. They were in the same place as the beginning, only he just decided to do it anyway. Like the council still has no reason to have changed their opinion. So there was no like journey to get there. It was just like, here's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
He's gonna do this now. Like
I wonder what they had originally planned, before the whole DCEU was like ending.
Yeah.
Because it was still going on when this movie was starting
Ben
to be
Affleck
made.
shot scenes for this movie.
Yeah, I heard of
So-
2 different Batman cameos
Yeah.
that got pulled.
It is a shame that like, I mean, I personally am very excited for the next iteration of the DCU, but it is kind of a shame that the last scene of this movie is the last scene of the DCEU, and it's Orm eating a cockroach.
cockroach, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
it's a
this
perfect
is-
metaphor
this is
for the
how it-
DCEU.
yeah, this is how it's gonna end.
We're tired of eating crap,
Yeah.
so we're moving on.
It's like
Right,
the
right.
DCU. It's like you got a burger, that's the trailer, and then you go to bite into it, and there's a roach inside of it. Who put this roach in my burger?
And you smile anyway because you like the character so much, just like he did.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked the characterization too, like the plot of Ocean Master, like, getting to be heroic rather than like villainous, like how he was in the first one.
I think he was the best part about the movie for me. Like coming to the end where he like fights the urge to be controlled by evil and joins his brother. He calls him brother at the end, right?
Yeah.
After saying like, never call me that. And he like gives him like a pat on the back, which he's never really gotten from anybody from Atlantis, maybe besides Mira and Vulko. Like
And like his mom.
never from somebody who like was on the opposing side of him, who
Yeah.
like disagreed with him. And he finally got acknowledged by his brother and like he got to be set free. So it was a cool character arc, but also at the same time, and this is just like for fun, a nitpick, but I feel like we're kind of forgetting the amount of people he must have killed with those tidal waves on the surface. He like the tidal wave almost killed Aquaman and his dad. That's like 2 random people. Imagine the rest of the garbage he surged around the earth on beaches, people like laying out in the sun tanning. Imagine the people that he murdered, and now he's like going free off of like.
Well,
but he was a nice guy.
I think
Yeah.
in this movie,
Once.
maybe I misheard, but I'm pretty sure there's a line where Aquaman calls Ocean Master Loki.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and also like
It felt like you misheard it though, because it felt really
Yeah.
like.
It's like, did he just
Minute.
say Loki?
yeah, it's kind of like what you're just saying. Like Loki was, he killed a lot of people in the early stages of the MCU, but now he's some people's favorite hero.
It was over the cross of a bunch of storylines and movies and stuff, though.
Yeah, no, but
Didn't
what I'm
happen
saying
in
is
one
like,
movie.
yeah, you have, but at the same time though, if you look at Loki, yeah, he still killed all those people, so.
Yeah, I feel like the perception they try to draw in both instances is like you didn't see any people die in the Battle of New York. Not humans. You didn't see any people die in the tidal waves of
Right.
of Aquaman 1. Like you didn't see it.
I think they do too much of trying to make every character like
Redeemable.
either a hero or an anti-hero instead of like here's a villain.
Well,
you know?
that's why I think Black Manta and Orm were my 2 favorite characters in this movie, because yes, Orm is redeemed and has a cool arc, and they do that a lot of times. But Black Manta's not really redeemable, but he also has relatable motives. Like his Aquaman left his father to die, which I feel like is a more complicated situation than it gets credit for. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but he's like, "Don't leave him here. I need your help." And Aquaman's like, "You guys attack innocent people. Ask the sea for mercy." And he leaves. But he leaves and goes and saves this other crew member that he left behind when he got attacked by David Kane and his dad.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he could try and help save David Kane's dad, the pirates who caused this, or he could go and save the innocent crew member who was like close to drowning, And so like, I don't think it's as simple. Like he didn't just leave his dad to die for no reason.
There's a scene in this movie too that I think parallels that scene that you're talking about, and I'm sure they did it on purpose. But towards the end of the movie, Black Manta is like falling down a hole. Instead of Aquaman just saying like,
That's the
"Ask
sea
the sea
for
for
mercy.
mercy," he reaches out to save him when he could have just like let him die. And then Black Manta says never and like kills himself. But like Aquaman, that shows like there's character development. Like he, to some degree, cared what happened to the guy who almost killed his dad,
Kidnapped his
his son, was, inches away from killing his son.
I would say that is a good point. That is
He
good
was just
character
going to pull him
development.
up to kill him personally.
He was gonna.
It may be.
No, but no, I think that's a really
For my dad.
I think that's honestly
For my son.
that's honestly a really good point about there being actual character development in this movie that I didn't think about, because not only did he leave his dad, but when Randall Park's character, like Dr. Shin, first reveals himself, he's like, knock him out and help me hide these bodies. Like, he was gonna just leave that guy behind, and that guy is way less villainous. And now he's seen his brother, like his worst enemy, turn and become an ally. I think now he's kind of, the character development there is like, oh, he realizes like people can change and that spark of good is worth saving. So he's going to save the guy who kidnapped his son. And he was going to leave Dr. Shin to rot in that orichalcum factory. So that's kind of a big change in his character of like caring about individual people.
Yeah.
You know, he is more also caring about his enemies rather than just caring about protecting the surface.
Yeah, and the plot. I mean, I didn't think it was like really like bad, so that's why I gave it a 6, because it wasn't like outstanding. Like, oh my gosh, this story is like the groundbreaking, the best story ever, or whatever. But it was, in my opinion, cohesive enough and made enough sense, and worked enough for me to say 6 instead of lower.
Well, like I said, the environmental aspects worked really well for me too.
Yeah.
I liked how because Aquaman lives in the sea, and historically
sea.
pollute the oceans. So.
I think it's cool too. So there is a lot of like exposition in this movie, but there's one scene that was like not super expository, but they say a line of like, there's plagues that are breaking out in the kingdoms of Atlantis, and they say it's because of like algae blooms and rising temperatures, and they list a few things, and I was like, that's pretty cool how they're taking like
People died, Zach.
they're
Think it's cool.
no, well, it's cool how they
Volko died, dude.
off screen. All right,
Yeah,
people.
just a
I was going to say, did we even talk about that yet?
We missed you, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, but they kind of relate how like, okay, the surface world is having all these issues of like all these crazy storms. I think they said like thunder snow or something like that, and then also Atlantis is experiencing all these complications from the acts that Black Manta's doing. It's affecting both the surface world and the the kingdoms of Atlantis.
We do have an increase in natural disasters. I mean, more wildfires than ever, higher global temperatures on average, more like because of ice cap shifting and climate change. Like, they're very real problems. So it's cool to see this movie touch on it, especially for a character who is like heart and soul is the sea, and like that's where the people of Atlantis come from. So I think it's cool that they leaned into that message. I feel like it's a message that everybody should be willing to get behind because we all share the same Earth. Maybe we don't all agree about going about it in the same way or as drastically, but I feel like we can all agree that like we should not destroy the planet that we live on.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
I also don't think it was that much in your face either, because I saw a review on TikTok like, oh, like they're really pushing this agenda, blah blah. It's like, I don't know. It just felt like a natural, like what Zach was saying, like
that's part of the story.
Yeah,
I mean, orichalcum is a stand-in for gas, and then I've seen people compare the volcano on Necris, shooting that giant plume of green smoke, to like our pollution of humans' pollution of the environment, surface dwellers with our smokestacks and things like that. It's the metaphor I think is pretty clean. I mean,
it's also the only sensible way to make the surface world and the kingdoms of Atlantis be at odds, because
if the depths of the ocean, how are we going to interact with them?
Yeah, like, okay, if we're not polluting, if the Earth's not being polluted and they're not blaming the surface world, what's the problem? They're not going to really have reasons to be at odds.
They're not doing plot gymnastics either. It's just like what we
Right.
really do. I mean, and we're like, humans are to some degree trying to reverse it. We're working at it, but we still, if there was a civilization living underwater, they'd probably hate us.
Right. It makes total sense, I think.
All right, let's move on to our
Yeah.
next category,
Next category.
and that is acting. This is also out of 10 points. Zach, how about you go first for this one?
For me, I think that my score lost a lot of points in this category because, like,
Was it based off Storm's performance?
no, mine's mostly based off Jason Momoa's performance. Like, I like Jason Momoa. I think he's like awesome as a dude. Like, he does what he likes to do, and he does all this cool adventurous stuff. But I said this to you guys last night. I feel like, especially in this one, it's present in every appearance as Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but I feel like it's really present in this one, where it's like, that's actor Jason Momoa, and he put on an Aquaman suit. Like, he doesn't really like.
He's not embodying the character of
in my mind,
Aquaman.
right? He's like,
Yeah.
there's like a montage in the beginning where he's like smashing beers and riding a motorcycle, and like, to me, it's just like they're like, let's just film Jason Momoa being Jason Momoa.
He didn't
Yeah.
know the camera crew was there.
Yeah, I said last night that was clips. That looks like clips from like his YouTube page or
Yeah.
something.
So
To
like,
add on to your point, though, the Guinness is actually Jason Momoa's favorite beer, and he has a line of Guinness like that he owns.
he's like the
Yeah, so-
oh, does he? I didn't know
so
that.
that's like
It's an ad.
that's definitely just Jason Momoa,
Right.
And he likes to ride motorcycles, and it's like
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, I like it because I like Jason Momoa, but I feel like he's not doing a whole lot of acting, you know. And then the scenes where he,
it's like Adam Sandler, like
Yeah.
his characters are Adam
the
Sandler.
scenes where he like needs
the
to
most
be
part.
acting, I didn't like really work that well. Like, at no point in the movie did I really feel like that baby was Aquaman's like, or Jason Momoa's child. Like,
Get away from my son!
yeah, you know, there was like, I don't know. It just didn't really like, he didn't sell that, I guess, that well. The stuff with
It
like,
kind of just felt like a joke, him having a kid.
yeah.
Because every time he was interacting with the baby, it was supposed to be funny.
The baby peeing on
the
him.
only scene I
Yeah.
got close was when the baby first talks to the fish. Because, like, I feel like in that scene, you know, maybe he didn't, like, deliver it all that well or whatever, but I could pick up on the fact that, like, he was excited that his son had the same power as him. And he, like, they had that, like, little tender moment.
Yeah, to not feel alone in the world.
Yeah, yeah. So, but overall, I didn't think the acting was all that well. I feel like Dolph Lundgren's character is, like, he's just Dolph Lundgren too. Like,
That's the worst part of the movie for me. I've maybe not the worst. That's exaggerating, but I cringe every time he talks. As I just don't like the way his voice sounds and the delivery of the lines for this character for Dolph Lundgren.
yeah. And then like Amber Heard too was like really a whole lot of nothing.
She was in it more than I thought she was going to be.
And I agree, but like there wasn't a whole lot of substance to the thing she was in. There was either like
Just
you
probably on
mentioned last night-
purpose.
Yeah,
That's-
she's just like yelling a lot.
In the first movie, she was a lot more involved. I thought the love plot in the first movie was kind of cheesy, but she definitely was more of a character.
I feel like you can
Understandably.
kind of see in the beginning how she was supposed to be more of a character in this movie too. And then Black Manta came and like injured her or whatever, and I thought that was going to be the last we saw her.
Oh, I thought she was
I was
dead.
like, oh, she's injured.
Yeah.
She's out for the rest of the movie. I was surprised to see her come back.
They brought her off the bench.
Yeah.
Some-
And then he's
What
like,
score did you give it?
I give it a 4 out of 10 because there is some like good acting. Like I think that, I want to say Patrick Stewart, but that's not
Patrick
it.
Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. Like I thought most of his acting was pretty solid.
Well, I thought him and Black Manta were really strong.
Yeah, and I agree with Black Manta too. And I also liked Randall Park's character. Like, you know, there were his acting wasn't like bad. It was just like he's playing this like scientist who got in over his head, and I think he portrays that really well. Like you can tell he's scared.
they gave that scientist a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
He was leading the strongest gun on the ship.
Yeah, I was looking for like the writing to differentiate the characters, like in terms of them having like their own personalities, and his like felt really damp. His personality was like he says astounding because he's a scientist and he's excited by like new things. It's not like I didn't feel anything special to the writing. I thought
Kind
he
of
was
felt like
fine.
Aquaman, just he didn't have powers.
I feel like they were like this is Jimmy Woo. People like him.
Yeah.
Let's give him a bigger role.
Yeah.
in this movie.
I think like man, I forget what I was gonna say, but I think that maybe that's what I was gonna say. Maybe they gave him that astounding line a couple too many times, but I think it's like it's cool because you know, like basically the story of this guy is he's worked his whole life to see Atlantis and to prove Atlantis is real, and now he's seeing it. First of all, he's seeing the main gate of the city. He's speaking with Atlanteans, and like physically interacting with the Atlanteans. And so like that is astounding to him, you know? So
Well, I like the fact that he had like a thing. Like he's like his thing is that he's like in awe, and that's how he expresses it. I like that. I just feel like that was the depth of his character, and it like they didn't do anything else with him. Like it would have been cool to see him more like curious about Atlanteans. Like you see like these other movies and shows, like maybe he's like trying to see like, oh, where are your gills, like inspecting them, like, but he just comes into the room and he's like, oh, I want to surrender. Like I'm in over my head. Like he wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no. They didn't like double down on.
And I agree. Obviously, he's like a background character, so he doesn't have all this like in-depth character development and stuff. But I think that it makes a lot of sense because like in the first one, really brief scene, but he's on TV talking about like how Atlantis is real and stuff like that. So you can infer that he's done like he knows a lot about Atlantis. He's researched all the stories and stuff like that, and so you know he knows about Atlantis, but now he's finally getting to like solidify his beliefs. You know, he's getting to actually see that it is real, and all the research he's done is true and stuff. So
No, I agree with you. I just think it was kind of half-hearted. Like there was no real excitement. It was just him muttering astounding. It was kind of muted for me. But I gave the acting a 6 out of 10. I thought, I mean, and maybe like looking back, that might even be a little bit high, but I mean, I thought it was like the acting wasn't what made me dislike the movie. I feel like it was other aspects of the movie, and I thought Patrick Wilson and the actor whose name I have trouble pronouncing, who plays Black Manta, I thought the two of them did a phenomenal job kind of carrying the acting in this movie. They have Nicole Kidman in this movie, which is crazy. I thought everyone, like, the acting was fine. Some of the line delivery was really poor. That's why I brought it down to a 6.
Yeah.
Like some of the lines, but some of the writing for the lines is bad, and it's hard to salvage it. But I don't know. Jason Momoa just being himself. The acting wasn't anything phenomenal, but the acting didn't like super take me out of the movie. Other things did.
Kind of feels like that's what a lot of these superhero movies are turning into, is just turning into the main character's real life personality.
and like I think it can work because like Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool are like you know
You have to have
he
a perfect.
carries
You have to have a
himself.
perfect casting for it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Chris Evans is not like Captain America.
No,
Like he's. I mean,
but he is. One thing I love Chris Evans and I love Captain America. So like I think that I saw an interview
he's.
where either he was talking about it or somebody was talking about him, and they were like, you know, he takes the responsibility of like being Captain America to so many people seriously, and like so he tries to live up to that. Obviously, he's just an actor, but he tries to carry himself with a certain like level of that.
He's. From what I get from a lot of like the cast interviews, is he's kind of like a party guy, and not as like an insult. He's just like a life of the party kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like they talk about like who's the most likely to bring everyone out like to get drinks or like something like, and then everyone agrees like, oh, that's Chris Evans. Like
More
he's
like
a
Johnny Storm than Captain
he's
America.
like a fun guy. He's a good-hearted guy, it seems like, and like he has like. I see a lot of his like outreach stuff. He seems like a good person, but he just doesn't seem like he's like the stoic, reserved
Right.
person that Captain. And that's what acting is. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a lot of these people are playing themselves. What did you give the score on acting?
I'm kind of in between you guys. I give it a 5.5 out of 10.
Directly? No, not directly in between us. You gave it a 4. So low.
Yeah, he went low. I gave it. I originally had a 5, and I bumped it up just that half point. Because they did a good job. Like, because acting's hard. Whether you are just playing a character that's kind of like your personality and stuff. Like, they didn't just like. It wasn't unbearable.
This has got to be one of the hardest movies to act in because they're acting, pretending to be underwater, pretending to interact with CGI things that aren't there, pretending to ride a giant seahorse, like all this stuff that makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, like I try to relate it to like, could anyone have done this? And it's like, no, like could we just pull in one of our random friends and throw him in, have him be as good as Jason Momoa did in Aquaman? Probably not.
Could you give this script to like a super like upper echelon talented actor and like they suddenly changes the movie? I don't think it could.
Possibly,
I think
probably not though.
because I feel like the movie is written to be about
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa's like personality.
Yeah.
Like he's like a lighthearted guy.
I really do wonder how much of the movie while they were filming was actually written.
Well, Jason Momoa has a story credit, which is unusual. You know?
Yeah, like I feel like because of all the reshoots, a lot of it was kind of happening on the fly. And even if it was written, it was probably written like a few days beforehand, not like a year ahead of time, you know, to where everything can be ironed out. At least that's what it felt like. I don't know how it actually went down.
Ironically, they had a lot of freedom coming to the end of the DCU. Like they weren't beholden to anything. So it just didn't feel like they were.
Felt like a very soft ending, right?
Yeah, it felt.
To a universe.
It was
Because
a nice
by the time the reshoots happened, they knew it was going to be the last movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They've known that for like quite a while.
Well, in Aquaman comics, like his dad is dead, Aqua Baby gets killed. Like they, we'll get into that, but like I'm glad they went with a happy ending for the end of the
instead
DCU
of
and didn't
killing
murder all
everybody.
these people. So that's like a positive. But want to go on to cinematography.
yeah, so cinematography is my favorite category that we talk about. And this one includes a lot of stuff: composition, camera movement. We also put in CGI, special effects, and whatnot into this category. And editing is another big part that's in this category. So there's a lot of moving pieces that go into this. And I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. I feel like it was just very cluttered. The shots were very hard to follow what was happening just because there's so much happening. I thought the CGI was fine. I didn't think it was bad. I feel like if they had more time, it could have been better. But it's just really hard because probably 80% of the movie is underwater, you know? So like that means most of your shot is CGI. So that's really hard to
I
handle.
honestly feel like they angled this movie to be a lot more out of the water in a lot of instances. Like, I feel like they did. I mean, did it on purpose, but still a high percentage of it in water. Like, did you notice? Like, you go the desert scene, you go like the jungle scene, you go the in the ship sequences, and then you've got like the climax of the movie. They go underwater just to come back out of water to in like the spot in Necris where they're above on land again. Like they
Yeah.
did a lot of it on land, more than I expected.
I guess that's true. It's just everything was made up, you know, and,
Yeah.
and most of it was done so with the computer, and it's just hard to connect with that. You know, like some of the villains and stuff kind of reminded me, probably because it's on the water, of like Pirates of the Caribbean, but like you can't even compare the two in terms of quality, you know, or really story. It just seemed like so much more went into all the Pirates movies, even the Pirates movies that you don't even think of because they're not as good or they came out later, you know, and the hype kind of died down maybe a little bit. Like that, it's still very cinematic, very thought out. You know, they took their time with a lot of it, it feels like. But for this, it kind of just felt like a puzzle piece put together at the last minute. And I think they did a good job I think the people working on it did a good job for what circumstance they were in, you know? So what'd you guys give it?
Oh, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought second a lot of things that you said. I just feel like I watched Saltburn recently, and I feel like the composition in that movie of many shots was just like really like a framework on how to fill a screen and how to direct the eye, and I thought it was really beautifully done. Just comparatively, I feel like there's just a little bit messy in terms of what filled the screen.
Oftentimes when maybe like the story isn't as high as you want it to be, like I feel like the cinematography can really make up for keeping you interested in the movie. You know, like even if the story isn't captivating you, you're just sitting there like, wow, this is just visually stunning, you know? And I can think of maybe like 2, maybe 3 shots in all of Aquaman that was like, oh, that was like really cool. And it's mainly when Black Manta's in the dark and then his lights glow up or his eyes glow up. And it's like,
those scenes do look sick.
that's cool because his suit's kind of cool, not necessarily like a interesting or creative cinematic shot.
The first movie, while I don't love it, has some really incredible, beautiful ultra
Like the first fight scene.
Well,
That was
that's
really dope.
They film action a lot better in the first movie too, but I'm just talking about like ultra wide landscape shots of like the ocean, and we're just giving perspective to like the massive size of the ocean and making them feel small in scale. Like our characters are in this little ship and they have this huge wide with like glowing reefs in the background, or like them sinking beneath the depths in the trench and hordes of zombies around them, just making things feel small. There's huge, cool scope shots that are really beautifully lit with colors and stuff in the first movie that I feel like this movie didn't have the same like organization to it.
And you can have a lot of stuff on screen, but have it where it's like set up to where it draws your eye to the center of focus, you know, of whatever that is, whether it's character or location or whatnot. Like there's ways to direct the viewer's eye, but in a lot of times during this movie, I'm like, where do I look? You know, like what's going on? There's so much happening. And another big thing, you know, I don't like slow motion when it's not necessary. They had a few slow motion parts in this movie that were cool, but then they also had some slow motion shots that weren't even in a higher frame rate.
Yeah.
You know, like they're in like the standard 24 frames and they've slowed it down so it's all choppy.
It looks like the slow motion in like the Scorpion King trailer.
Yeah, it's like
from like 2000.
Why just don't put it in slow motion? Like it didn't need to be in slow motion. Like when the brother was gonna save the guy from falling and he pops around the corner in slow motion, like that didn't need to be in slow motion. It wasn't shot in slow motion. Like just edit it how it was supposed to be. You know, it didn't need to be like that. And I feel like that takes some points off for
They had a
cinematography.
slow-mo quota they had to hit.
Yeah.
Snyder called them.
Yeah.
Zach, what did you rate it? And do you want to, while he's talking, do you want to pull up the shots you want to see so we can
Yeah,
look
sure.
at this for cinematography?
I rated cinematography 8 out of 10. And you guys have a lot more technical understanding.
I'm sorry. 8?
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys have a lot more technical understanding of
You know this
things
category is
than I
out of
do.
10, not 20, right?
Yeah.
Dang.
Eight,
All right.
8 is high. I'm
Do explain.
I
Do
thought
explain.
I thought that visually, and I agree with the slow-mo stuff. There was some slow-mo that looked pretty bad. There was also some CGI that looked pretty bad. But overall, like, I thought it looked really cool. Like, there's a scene where in the beginning they're all diving down in the like the ice and stuff, and I thought that looked really cool how they shot that.
Their lights look cool, right? Their
Yeah.
lights had this cool like star-like effect that reminded me of like The Thing, like the original The Thing, the horror movie. I thought that looked pretty cool to me. I agree.
Yeah. I also think that Atlantis looks like magnificent in this. I know you and I disagree, and you think that Talocan looks better, but
Talocan.
I think it doesn't. I think definitely Atlantis looks better. I don't know. I mean, I also don't really know much about like aspect ratios and all that, and I'm colorblind too. So like, if like to me, it looks fine. It looks cool.
Whereas their insane, vibrant use of neon colors might be overstimulating to us. Zach is like just colorblind.
He sees the colors normally because they're so saturated.
Regular stimulated.
So to me, like I don't know. I just thought the cinematography was good. Maybe a little jumpy, like as far as like
the cuts.
this scene, then this scene, then this scene. But I don't know. I liked it. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
I feel like part of cinematography too goes into like the characters go, no, cut, no, cut, no. You know, like you didn't have to do that.
No.
But here, let's take a look. This is from the first Aquaman, since the second one isn't out yet. Oh, hold on. There we go.
It feels like Blade Runner with the lighting. If Blade Runner wasn't so like quality stylistic.
Yeah, so like here, like that shot right there, it kind of directs your eye, but there's also a lot happening. Like what detail are you seeing there?
They're so small.
In my opinion,
Having the bridge underwater.
it's not.
Gateway Bridge is a remnant of the old world.
I don't
It's
know.
also the
To me,
only
what
way
it reminds me of is Star Wars when they have.
Even if
Yeah,
they
maybe.
did manage to evade the guards, they
yeah,
never passed the Hydra
I can't
cannons.
think of the name of the city.
People
Where the
think
Jedi
something
Temple.
Oh crap! This is.
This is embarrassing.
I remember it as a map in Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah, so there's like those basically roadways, you know. That is just the main highway going into the city.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're showing that this is like the biggest city. There's a lot of traffic. You know?
Yeah.
That's all this is. That's all this.
This
is.
looks a lot better than a lot of the scenes that we saw.
Jeddah City.
But
It
this
starts with this. Yeah.
this scene here that we're watching now, I think looks a lot better than anything in the second film. That scene in particular isn't nearly as cluttered. This is the end fight scene.
Yeah, that's one interesting thing too about the scene you just showed is that it's shot in IMAX, and they change aspect ratios in the first movie. I was watching it.
Like, look at this. Like, too much. What is going on?
It's blurry, chaotic. They also do this shot twice in the first movie and again in the second movie. So they've done the same shot 3 times with the trident coming in on his eyes.
I just had the volume of this blasting on the recording, so I don't know if they heard us while this was going on.
I was just saying that
I turned that off.
they did that shot
My bad.
twice in this first movie and once in the second movie. So we've seen it.
Like,
3
what's
times.
going on here?
Croissant.
There's so much happening.
Let's see.
That's
there's
the
a
name
lot
of the
going
planet,
on.
though, isn't it?
No, I think that's the name of the city, or maybe it's the planet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, oh my god, there's just so much. It's
It's all, but I mean,
it's chaotic. I mean,
this is the same as a Star Wars fight scene. Like,
No, it's not.
I don't know, man.
There's how many fish
all
right
it
there
is
in that swarm? So many. How many ships would be flying? Like
All of
5
this it's because it's
in
underwater.
Star Wars?
There's a lot of animals.
I'm not a fan of the way the ending.
I think this looks sick.
I hate the climax in Aquaman 1. I'm not a fan of the way this looks visually.
I disagree. I think it looks awesome.
But I think that it's interesting watching the first movie because you'll see the aspect ratio shift between the scenes that are shot in IMAX and not, because IMAX scenes are full screen and they filmed the rest of the movie in like a widescreen ratio. But I didn't necessarily notice that.
You know
during
what?
this movie.
You know what you could compare it to? The opening scene of Episode 3 with Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, that's a good scene.
Well, because there's a lot going on. It's a big, giant battle.
But I think it's done way better than what we just watched.
Let's see if Aaron's memory holds up.
I know.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is better when you compare the two scenes. But essentially, it's kind of the same ideas. Like, there's this giant battle going on. There's all these different little soldiers. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
To
but
me,
this-
to
but-
me, it.
Look how much cleaner this is
But
already.
it's all about execution, you know? You can say like it's the same idea, but so yeah, look at this. It's just
We're following 2 ships.
following them very easily, right? Like
There's some ships in the background.
Bam.
Yeah, but we're still focused on those 2 ships, and it's very clear that that's who we're following. Who were we following in those other shots?
think
Just random
masses
fish.
of squids. And
No,
stuff.
Aquaman wasn't in those shots.
No, he was.
He was in cutaways of it.
He wasn't in the shots. It was like this hordes of. It was him sending the animals to attack.
And look, now we're back close to the 2 people that we should care about in this fight. You know, like, yeah, there's a lot happening.
The distance from them changes, but
all
we
these ships.
are-
Like,
I know, but it's all in focus. It's like, okay, that ship blew up. They sent that rocket. Okay, now we're back and focused on our main characters. We're zooming in for some dialogue. But then if we go back, let me switch over here back to what we were just watching. We weren't like just following Aquaman. I have to.
No, I agree with Aaron. Like that was
All right,
we
this is
were
the
on
perfect
like
part here.
a continuous journey with those 2 ships in the opening of Revenge of the Sith.
I hear you, but and not. I mean, maybe we're getting
All right.
hung up on the. You gotta
So-
follow one character around, but
No, you don't have to follow one character. It's just like, what am I supposed to look at here? So we have this giant fish. He's gone. We have this shot.
Aquaman.
They're gone. There's Aquaman. Okay, we're still with Aquaman. Cool.
I think it's cool
We're
because
gonna
it's showing
stick
you
with
different
Aquaman for a
parts of the
little bit.
battle.
But now
You can't even
Aquaman's
see it.
gone, and now we're not with Aquaman anymore. Where was she in reference to Aquaman? We don't know.
Right next to him. Look. I think it's cool. It's showing you all these different parts of the battle that.
And
are
now
going on.
they're about to like make out in the middle of this battlefield, which is crazy.
Oh, do they kiss right here?
Yeah.
Close your eyes, kids.
I think
Oh.
I think the underwater stuff and the first one is better as far as like them talking to each other underwater and how their hair looks and stuff.
It's but like if
Bam,
if
right
we've got
there.
if we've got Aquaman in the foreground, what's in the background? A gigantic school of fish that's basically a wall. You know, it's just like
But like, look how little we're actually focusing on Aquaman. In the fight with
Ocean Master.
Anakin and Obi-Wan, we're following them most of the time.
Like the majority of the background is not a background, but a mess.
It's the ocean. Like, I don't know.
Well,
To each their own, but I like this works for me. I think it's cool.
but saying it's the ocean doesn't make it look good.
Yeah, because they're in space in Star Wars.
Yeah,
that
but
doesn't
space
automatically
is-
make it look.
Space is clear though.
The background-
underwater is murky.
The background,
This is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. They're underwater scenes.
it's only as murky as they want to make it be. You can see earlier scenes in the movie where the background's like beautiful glowing reefs with purples and greens and blues and like vibrant colors. They chose to have that fight in like the empty part of the ocean because it was easier to have the background be colorless, bland, dark schools of fish.
And I know this isn't a fight, but this to me all feels real. You know,
And maybe dude, maybe that's where we disagree is because I completely agree that this feels like real. And
This
the
feels like-
Aquaman stuff feels more fantastical. Like this
feels like it's on an Earth that I live on. It's on here,
and I
this
agree.
planet, in this world.
But these people look like they are actors that are being filmed swimming. Whereas in Aquaman, it looks like these are people that live underwater. And I feel like they move more smooth in the water. Like these people are just like, straight up swimming.
I feel like these are actors swimming, like you said, but then I feel like Aquaman is CGI characters being thrown through the water.
Dragged through the water by a scroll.
Yeah.
They don't always. It looks. I think it looks good in both. I think this looks better. But just look at what bothers me from Aquaman is when you look in the background of Talokan, they're using like all of these seaweeds and like different seaweeds and plant life, flora and fauna, as my friend Orm would say. And it's moving in the water to give life to the background. It's not just like a horde of fish that's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like,
And like I said earlier, I think the CGI is fine in Aquaman. It's just there's a lot.
There is.
It's a lot going on.
I just rewatched this movie and I actually like Talokan better than I did the first time around. But I still think that for selling me an underwater city that's fantastical is Aquaman does it way better.
can you look up the diving into the trench scene? Aquaman
Yeah.
in the trench?
yeah.
That scene is really cool.
Because I think this like overshadows anything that they did in The Lost Kingdom.
I think Aquaman 1 is better than the one we just watched last night too.
Outshot. That one right there, the top one, I think should be. You also think Aquaman 1's better? While we're waiting for this video to load, what do you guys think's better, Aquaman 2 or The Flash?
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2. I think it's by a slimmer margin than Zach thinks it is.
Aquaman 2 is also better than
Shazam. 2?
Shazam, Fear of the Gods.
I haven't seen that one.
I guess I would agree with that also. Shazam 2 is bad.
I would probably say Blue Beetle was,
The best DC movie this year.
yeah. I feel like I could flip a coin maybe for Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2.
That's crazy
but
to me. Blue Beetle I thought was much more.
Blue Beetle is a lot more put together, I think, too.
It still had its messy
Where's
parts.
this trench part that we're looking at?
Further.
Higher, further, faster.
Further.
This already looks better than what we saw.
Wait, pause. There. This is what we want to see. Look at that.
Yeah, that looks
This is good use of slow
This is
motion, too.
visually stunning. Now, this is the part where I think it's really cool because when you talk about how a shot's supposed to direct your eye, the
Oh, that's cool.
half above, half below is really cool. And then like the juxtaposition of the blue water with the red light really to draw your focus. And then they're being framed by the sea life.
It gets darker too the deeper they go, which is like pretty cool. Pretty cool attention to detail.
Like
I feel like that's what you don't like about Wakanda Forever, yeah.
Well, in this scene, it makes sense because like you see all the, I mean, whatever.
I gotcha. This looks cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like it's busy on the edges, but it frames the shot. So
Yeah, and you can follow the action. You know where to look. And you can still, you know that it's busy, but you still are knowing what you're supposed to pay attention to. Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement.
Those monsters look cool too.
The monsters I thought looked fine in Aquaman 2. I mean, the deserters looked pretty cool. The Necros people looked pretty cool, but there was nothing to me that like stood out. Like I'm not going to see something in another movie and be like, oh, that reminds me of the deserters.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like
They just
a little
look
bit
like
generic.
dried out
Mhm.
bones,
Yeah.
guys.
we've talked a lot about each of these categories. Let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far. So story, I gave it a 4 out of 10.
6 out of 10 for me.
5 out of 10 for me.
Acting, 5.5 out of 10.
4 out of 10 for me.
6 out of 10 for me.
And cinematography, I also gave it a 5.5 out of 10.
I gave it 8 out of 10.
I gave it a 6 out of 10.
And now we're going to sound design, which includes the soundtrack, the sound design, so like the Foley work, and then what's the other one I'm missing? Why do I always miss this?
Score.
The score. So I gave this a 5.5 out of 10 as well.
A lot of 5.5s.
Yeah.
I gave it a 6.
I also gave it a 6, but to me, like, I don't know so much about the technical side of this stuff, but I don't know. It sounded fine.
Yeah, you don't have to know.
Just a feeling, you know?
Yeah.
I gave it a 6 basically because, like, I found myself noticing the score. Like, I found myself noticing the score in, like, not a very positive light. It just felt like it was coming up in, like, kind of like an 80s action movie kind of way. It's like the submarine would be shown and it would be like, brr. And there was like a villainous score that they would use for Orm and one that they would use for Black Manta. I thought they were fine, but I didn't feel like it really, like, I felt like it was super menacing or like, I like the Riddler
like-
score in the Batman.
I feel like
really
you had to really pay attention to notice both of the individual characters. Like
They
Yeah.
sounded very
sound.
similar
Yeah.
to
To me-
villain score.
and
I
and like
don't
I was,
catch that stuff.
I remember sitting there yesterday being like, "What does Aquaman sound?" I don't know if does he have one. Probably does. I
does. I couldn't imitate
It's just not recognizable, you know, like the Batman or even the Dark Knight. Like you can think of their soundtracks in your head, you know.
I couldn't tell you a single song that was played off the soundtrack in this movie, so.
Well, I also think they played too many actual songs that didn't necessarily relate to the movie.
There was a scene when Aquaman breaks Orm out of prison and they're going back into the water where that was like the only time I remember being like, oh, I know this song that's playing in the
Yeah.
background. But I
Yeah.
can't remember what
There
it
was
was.
there was no lyrics.
I'd heard it before.
It just like was a 15-second, 20-second blur of the song. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
why not just make something original there? That didn't add to the movie at all. It actually took me away because I was like, oh, I know this song, and it's done. Okay. I thought the sound design was pretty good.
What'd you give it?
A 5.5.
Oh, yeah, 5.5, 6.
6, yeah.
Yeah. Like I thought the sound of the machines and the animals and the
Yeah.
ocean, the water, like I thought that all sounded cool, which is honestly really hard to do because right now I just finished probably 95% of the sound design for our short film, and our short film's like 6 minutes long, and it took forever because you're whenever you're recording this stuff, especially when it's CGI, you're not recording any of the sound besides audio of the actors.
Yeah.
And even sometimes that's done after the fact. So like literally every single thing you hear is done after the fact. So like if your shirt rubs against the character or something, you have to find like the cloth sound, or if your hand touches the table, you have to find that sound, or if
They're
your
like-
boots are walking.
Yeah, they're making sounds for like porpoises and stuff, like
Yeah.
really random stuff. So
Yeah.
kudos to them for that.
Our next category is set and character design. This is out of 5 points.
So excited to
One
hear
more.
his score for this.
Hold on, one more footnote for the
Yeah.
sound design.
Yeah.
Tobo.
It's Topo.
Topo is it? I know it's Tobo, but yeah,
His sounds were a little jarring.
yeah, he sounds like very like goofy.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to make it like he's talking kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
He sounds very goofy, but I don't know. I remember like remembering.
Yep.
It. Like it's memorable,
As soon as it happened, we both imitate it to each other.
Yeah.
When we were watching the movie. Okay, so set character design. This is also what you see on the screen, like cinematography, but more of like what's real, like, or their decisions behind it. Like, why did they choose this location? Oh, that was really cool. Why are they wearing this? Oh, that looked really cool. That was really well done.
Why did they choose a blue screen?
Yeah.
Oh, here's another scene. Why did they choose a blue screen?
Yeah. So this kind of goes all that, but we only give this category 5 points, and I gave it a 2.5.
I'm super
Out of
excited to
5.
hear Zach's score specifically because I know Zach loves costumes, especially comic accurate costumes. I gave it a 3. I feel like some of the suits are cool. I like the introduction of the stealth suit, but the sets are all blue screens. Really, it feels like. What did you?
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
That's
I thought I would have not been shocked if you gave it a 5.
Yeah.
yeah. What was your favorite part?
Black Manta suit.
Oh, Black
Yeah.
Manta suit's really
Dude,
cool.
in both of these movies, Black Manta suit is the best suit out of everybody's suits or costumes or whatever.
I'm not against the Aquaman suit with the orange. I think it's pretty cool.
I love that.
Accurate colors. I think he looks way cooler shirtless with the tattoos and stuff. That's how I'd do Momoa. I'd be like shirtless the whole movie.
The only complaint I have about the Aquaman suit is the giant green gauntlets. Like, I would have preferred something more comic booky where it was like a green kind of glove with a fin or something. Not, I don't like that big like
little more
shell
slick.
looking thing he has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have hated a fin, honestly. I would like a fin even less, personally. I feel like it would look goofy and cartoonish. But
You don't mean like an actual like fish fin, right?
No,
like
but
you mean like
if
just
you
like
look
a
at, yeah,
like
if
a
you look at
piece
pictures
coming
of
off?
comic Aquaman, he has like not a dorsal fin, but he has
Yeah.
like a
that's a better description.
yeah.
I'm imagining like a big fin is what I'm imagining. Like
It's-
on the forearm. That's
It's kind of like Batman's
gauntlets.
scalpels or whatever they're
What
called.
are they called?
Yeah.
But his is solid. Like
Yeah.
like for
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really like his gloves, but
Jason Momoa gains like 40 pounds when he has that suit on compared to
Dude.
the black suit.
he looks. There's a scene where he's at the head of a table, and that motherfucker's
just-
wider than the table. He's huge.
It's like the suit that Anthony Starr wears for Homelander, how it makes him look a lot more
Bigger.
jacked than he is. It's just Jason Momoa is also really big, so it just like doubles his size.
Going big. It's like the suit
Yeah.
that it's like the Zachary Levi suit for Shazam.
Yep.
Only he's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the suits were cool. I liked the main trio, I guess I would say, like Orm's suit, the black outfit with the symbol of Atlantis at the waistband, and Black Manta and Aquaman. Those suits were all really cool.
I like in both movies, Aquaman 1 and 2, like, I guess probably James Wan or whoever's making the costume decisions. I know there's like a costume department, but I like that they're not afraid to go for the comic book suits because they could have made Ocean Master look just like generic bad underwater guy, and they like rolled hard on his helmet and the silver and the blue. Like, it looks perfect.
I think that he should have been a little bit more afraid when it came to making him ride Storm, the giant seahorse.
I think that's
That also goes into this, I feel like, into this
Character
category.
design.
Yeah.
Storm looks really cool, but when it's moving, it doesn't look very cool. Like
I don't know if it looks cool at all.
I don't know, dude. I think it looks cool. I don't really know.
Seahorses are cool, I guess, but not giant rideable ones.
If I saw Batman in like a giant bat wing in Batman vs Superman, I'd be like, sick, what do I get? And James Wan would be like, you're gonna ride a giant seahorse. Glowing blue.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's bioluminescence, which I think is super awesome. But
Are seahorses bioluminescent?
maybe not
No, I
real
don't
life
think so.
Horses, but I don't care.
Should put
It's
it
not-
out on a
It's not
jellyfish.
real life. That's what I'm trying to say.
I
It's like,
complained in the first movie about them sitting still on a great white. So they were
some hate
like,
in the comments
hey,
too.
hold my beer. I got one better for you. A giant glow in the dark seahorse.
I wish he would have been riding on a regular sized seahorse.
I wish he would have just swam himself.
Yeah.
He's faster than all of those
and I
things
agree
anyways.
with that because there's a scene in this one where Atlanta is like chasing. There's a
Yep.
chase scene, and she's on this like robot shark
And then she catapults
and leaves
forward.
that thing into dust. What's the point of that thing?
Yeah, maybe it's like to save energy, you know,
Potentially.
Well, maybe
because they seemed really tired when
they
they
did
like
seem-
crossed
after
the ocean.
After that long swim, yeah.
They seemed unnecessarily tired at that point. All right, let's move on to our last category.
Rewatchability.
This one for me is a really important one because if I want to watch the movie over and over again, that says how good it is, even if it's not the best made movie, you know, and it's still something that's really fun. And I want to watch it over and over again. That means it was good. It related to me.
Balances us being pretentious.
Yeah. So rewatchability is out of 5 points. I'm gonna go last on this one.
Zach?
I give it a 2. 'Cause
Okay.
I definitely will watch it again because I usually watch everything twice.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely watch it again.
Well, it's not the amount of times you'll watch it in your whole life.
No, but isn't it?
It's like if you were to be
if
asked
somebody
five
asked me
times, yeah, and you
yeah.
were doing nothing else,
Yeah.
and it was, hey, you do nothing, or you watch Aquaman: The Last Kingdom.
I'd probably say
Okay.
2 out of 5. Yeah.
I give
Andrew,
it a 1.
a 1. I give it a 0. I don't want to
never
watch
watch
this
it again?
I don't. I was thinking about it last night on the drive home. I'm like, I think I gave The Flash a 0. Like, this was better than The Flash. And then I was thinking, like, would I actually ever want to watch this again? And the answer is no. The movie wasn't that good, and it's also the last movie in the series. So, like, I'm not going to have to watch it to be in the loop with anything else, like.
I'm just thinking, if I get asked 5 times to watch Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, it's gonna be
It'll
Zach.
be the 5th time when you're annoyed.
It's gonna be Zach all 5 times, and Zach's my friend, and I would probably say yes 1 out of those 5 times.
There.
So that's saying 1 to 5 to Zach, not 1 to 5 to the movie.
I think it deserves a 1.
Okay,
I didn't want it.
That's fair. Hey, that's fair.
I
That's,
don't know that
that's
I've
fine.
ever given a 0 for rewatching.
Not even for The Flash.
I'll go back and look, but I think I gave that a 1 also.
Yeah, go look at that.
The Flash.
I gave it a 0.
I rewatched it, but I only got to like a
That's
certain
great.
point, and I was like, I can't finish this right now.
Yeah, I
come
gave The
from
Flash
Zach,
a
the
0.
biggest Flash
Gave
fan
this one a 0. So my total score out of 10 points came out to be a 4.6.
Mine came out to be a 5.4.
I don't know what mine came out of because mine said Mine said out of 50.
Yeah.
So my
yeah,
total
so
was
just-
30.
Okay, so
out of
3.0. Yeah.
Okay, 3.0. What was yours?
You gave it a 3.0?
Yeah. What'd you?
No,
give
that's
it?
not right. It's a 6. Right?
Oh, no, you're right. 30 out of 50, 6.0. 6.0.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gave it a 6.0. I gave it a 4.6.
What? What'd you give it?
5.4.
So I gave it the highest rating.
Yes.
Yesterday too.
Which makes sense.
We expected it.
See, our unbiased thing kind of worked out.
When we talked about it last night, I think I said a 6 or a 7 too.
Yeah.
So
What did I say? Didn't I say like a 4 or 5?
I think you said like a 3 or 2.
I was
thought-
low.
I thought
I
you
was
said
low.
4.
I was low.
Our expectations for what we were going to rate it were fairly low. I thought I would give it like a 6 or a 7. I ended up giving it a 5.
Do you remember what you gave The Flash, Andrew?
Overall?
Yeah.
I can pull it up.
I think I was on the Flash episode, was I not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
We wouldn't do a Flash episode without you.
Well, I appreciate that.
I gave it a 4.8.
I don't remember.
So I rated this lower than The Flash?
That's crazy.
Where the heck is it? Me.
Wow.
Flash.
I rated this lower than The Flash? That's not how I truly feel.
Did you really? No, you didn't. There's no way.
5.4 for Aquaman, and for Flash.
Said 4.8, right?
Oh, so I rated it quite a bit higher. Never mind. I'm safe. I rated this movie higher than The Flash, which is how I feel.
You did?
Yeah.
What did you rate The Flash?
4.8.
Bro, what episode is The Flash?
4.8 versus 5.4.
What episode was our Flash?
I deleted it off our YouTube. No, I'm just kidding.
I see a Flash trailer, Batman, the boys. There it is. Okay, I found it. I gave it a 3.6. Zach gave it a 4.0.
Episode 80 if you want to watch our Flash review.
Yes.
Which, watch it for the support for these guys.
Yeah, Aquaman gave it I gave it a whole point more this time around.
I think
Really?
I gave it 2 points more.
Yep.
Our-
What was your Flash one? I'm sorry.
4.8, I think you said.
Okay.
4.8.
And what was this one? Like a 5?
5.4. People have heard us
Okay.
reiterate these
know.
numbers so much at this
I know.
point.
I'm sorry. Okay. That wraps up our scores. Is there anything else that we wanted to bring up before we go into kind of our current standings of the box office draft?
I could do the comic origins.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so I have comic origins and comic recommendations for Aquaman 2: The Lost Kingdom. So starting off with comic recommendations, these are some things that you can go and read if you're interested in origins for some of the characters or for the storyline for the movie. So the storyline overall for the movie, from what I understand, is based in a comic book called Adventure Comics Volume Number 1, issue number 452. It's also called Dark Destiny, Deadly Dreams, and this issue is a story where Black Manta kidnaps Aquababy, Aquaman's son, and he forces Aquaman and Aqualad to fight against each other. Spoiler alert for the comics, so I'm just going to say what happens for people that are interested. So Aquaman and Aqualad don't kill each other, and Black Manta kills Aqualad. Now, that is Obviously, Aqualad
It's heavy.
is replaced in this story with Ocean Master or his brother Orm, and the baby survives.
Is it Garth Aquaman Aqualad?
Garth. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you.
Is it Calder? Yeah, I know you know who Calder is.
Yeah, I know Calder. I love Calder. Garth is in the Justice League, the Young Justice show.
Is he?
Yeah. And then, so a couple other comic book recommendations. In 1965's, you can read Aquaman 23, the first appearance of Aqua Baby. You can also, from 1956, read Adventure Comics number 229, the first appearance of Topo the Squid,
yeah.
that we all love. The first appearance of the stealth suit shown in this movie is in 1968 in an Aqua miniseries. Let's see if I'm missing any here. The first appearance of Dr. Stephen Shin in this movie, played by Randall Park, is in 2011 in Aquaman Volume 7, number 2. So the other thing I wanted to go over was the origins for Aquaman, specifically the retellings from 2011. This 2011 series, The Secret Origins of Aquaman, tells the story of where Aquaman came from as he's telling it to his mother, his life story. It's a little bit of a retelling of his original origin story from the Silver Age, but a lot of the details stay the same. So we'll kind of follow this along and explain the differences here between this and the first Aquaman movie and how that differentiates our Jason Momoa Aquaman from the comic book Aquaman. So in this story, Aquaman is born because his father is out on the water and is actually saved in this version by Queen Atlana instead of vice versa. She saves him when he's basically shipwrecked and takes him out of the water. They fall in love, have a baby, name him Arthur. Those details all stay the same. And then Queen Atlana, without telling Tom Curry, Aquaman's dad, who she is, she leaves kind of with very little explanation and returns to Atlantis. So Tom Curry raises Arthur at that time as, his own son, as a single father, not knowing that his son is half Atlantean. He knows that she came from the water and saved him, but doesn't know the specific details. So as he's getting older, he wants to kind of study his son and figure out these abilities that he's forming with positive goals in mind to help his son and kind of understand what they're going through, because he doesn't understand the backstory. He calls and befriends Dr. Stephen Shin, who is played by Randall Park in the movies. Now, Dr. Stephen Shin in this storyline is initially just a friend to the family who undertakes this journey with them because it's a research opportunity and he's a curious scientist. He studies Arthur. And then when Arthur turns 18 and is graduating from school, Dr. Shin reveals his plans to publish his findings because through his research, he's discovered that Arthur is Atlantean. He's discovered that Atlantis is real. And he wants to now publish these findings and share them with the world. Tom says, no, the world isn't ready. I don't want my son being revealed like this. And that's where they kind of have a falling out. Now, Tom goes back home because the agreement had their research being done out of their home. All of Dr. Shin's information is kept at Tom Curry's house. So he destroys the research and throws them into the ocean, which leads to them further drifting apart. And Dr. Shin goes and pays a mercenary to go and get a hidden blood vial that is at Tom Curry's house, a piece of DNA of Arthur Curry, the soon-to-be Aquaman. The mercenary goes into the house and confronts Tom Curry. Now, at the last moment, Arthur comes into the house and kicks the mercenary out the window. His father has already basically collapsed to the ground. So instead of chasing the mercenary, he takes his father to the hospital. His father gives him a peaceful message as kind of his last words, and his father dies. But ignoring his father's peaceful message, he goes out on a vengeful hunt for the man he believes to have killed his father, this mercenary. He finds him, and in a dark twist for Aquaman, strangles him to death with his bare hands right in front of his son, which is crazy in these comics. And his son, as we know from the movies, is Black Manta. Now, if Aquaman had stuck around at the hospital, he would have learned that his father was indeed not killed by the mercenary, but he died from some kind of ammonia poisoning that had been sickening him previously. And he had a cardiac arrest brought on from the fear of the break-in. So he wasn't directly killed by this mercenary and has now made a lifelong enemy, his most iconic enemy, the Black Manta, swear vengeance against him and come after him. And that is the origin of Aquaman in a nutshell. But isn't that crazy? Doesn't that origin make Aquaman look way more like the bad guy? I'm honestly on Black Manta's side in that. His dad was doing a job he was paid to do, to take back research that was basically supposed to go to Dr. Shin in the first place. And then his dad like gets confronted, defends himself, gets kicked out a window, strangled to death by Aquaman when he comes back. And like now this guy's seeking vengeance for his dad. He kind of seems like he's rightfully owed that vengeance. Like Aquaman should have kind of stuck around and found out like
Give me a Black Manta movie.
Well,
that's Sony would do it.
yeah. One thing I like about the Justice League Unlimited Aquaman, or well, I guess the Justice League the first series, he's kind of an antagonist. Like when he's like first introduced. I don't know. I think that worked in that show.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. That's in that's in Unlimited?
I think no,
I think it's in regular Justice League, yeah. That's where he gets that badass hook for a hand.
Mm-hmm.
Which we said we wanted to see in this movie, but
Yeah,
we didn't
we
get.
should've-
Jason Momoa with a big hook on
I
his
feel
hand.
like the brine guy. He's like, my claw got cut off. I feel like that was
The
like
nod.
a little wink.
Yeah.
But
There was a lot of nods in this movie, like nods to Wakanda, nods to Iron Man at the end, nods
Loki.
to Black Panther at the end, nods to Loki. This movie's a buddy brother comedy. It's like Thor: The Dark World, like a lot of Marvel nods.
Yeah.
But with that said, Aaron, you prepared some statistics for us for
Yeah.
our box office draft. Which, if you haven't seen, what episode is it?
Let me see.
Aaron
I think
doesn't
it's
know
like
it's off the dome.
I
He's
think
so
it's like
professional.
episode 20 or something. It's really early.
So we did a box office draft at the beginning of the year where we each drafted 5 movies to see who could pick the highest grossing earners throughout the year. And we've been following it throughout the year with much anticipation and, giving each other jabs the whole time. So Aquaman is the last movie for Aaron's team specifically, but overall, because it's in December, it's the last movie of the year.
Episode
that will decide
50.
the fates of our team. So go back and watch episode 50 if you want to see us make those picks and laugh at us. Now that
It was a
you've got
fun
hindsight.
episode. It was, especially now knowing the results of all these movies. You can really go back and watch and laugh at our terrible predictions. And we will do a official 2023 box office draft recap as well here in the next few weeks. But this is kind of
don't have the
a
final
little
numbers yet.
teaser because our last movie of the draft finally came out. So it is now on the screen for everyone to see. We got Andrew's team, my team, and these are listed in order that they were drafted. So Andrew got the first pick. So he picked Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And then my first pick was Guardians Volume 3. And then back and forth, all the way down to Aquaman Lost Money and 5.
How long have you been sitting on that joke?
What you did there.
The whole morning, boys. The whole morning.
My first question would be to Zach, and it would be, when you saw these picks, who did you think was going to win at the beginning of the year?
I honestly probably would have said Aaron.
Yeah, me
at
too.
The beginning because
He has so many superhero movies.
yeah, and like superhero movies were doing much better
Yeah.
previously.
The way that
This year it seems like superhero movies really.
Yeah, I think Andrew and I had two different approaches for the draft. Like I tried to go very like statistical with it. Like I looked up like all of the last box office earnings for Marvel, for live action adaptations from Disney movies. Like 4 of the 5 last live action Disney movies made $1 billion, and the 5th one made 900 million. So I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Little Mermaid's a no-brainer.
And it only made 569 million.
Yeah.
And then I went with more of an approach of like partially what I wanted to see and what in my gut I felt like audiences wanted to see. And then I kind of what was like in the talk, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of letterbox talk about like Spider-Verse and Barbie, and with
Yeah.
Top Gun Maverick coming out, I felt like Dead Reckoning was a surefire hit. So that's more my thought process.
Yeah, it's crazy that your first pick of the whole entire draft is like middle of the pack in terms of revenue. And then your last pick is the highest.
My last 2 picks are 2 of the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got really lucky getting Barbie at the 5 and you had no faith in it.
Even your flop, your Ant-Man and the Wasp, if you want to call it a flop,
Did better than your flop.
was at 470. And that more than doubled their budget. And then the Marvels, man, just
Is the Marvels out of
Went
theaters?
hard.
Because so many movies have moved into theaters. I could just see it being pushed out. Still in?
I'm not 100% sure, but these numbers are updated as of December 23rd. That is today that we're filming. So all these numbers are up to date for their box office scores. I am currently just under $1 billion away from Andrew, so I need Aquaman to come in hard.
Dude, the Marvels flopped for you. I thought it would still be in theaters longer, but so many movies came out in December, and this is a November release. There's nothing on Fandango.
Yeah, it got hit hard, man. I was expecting like, okay, the first Captain Marvel movie brought in $1 billion. If it gets half of that,
Success.
it's still a decent movie for this draft. You know, like that would have made more than your worst movie if it got 500 million. You know, but it was 3 under that, which is so much, much.
If you guys are just looking at like the money the movies made, I wonder if there's a way that you could look at like other ways that they made money, like for example, like toy sales and stuff like that. I don't know if that exists.
Oh,
but I wonder.
Mario Bros. And Barbie probably both through the roof on both of those.
Made so much money, and like
Mario also put out a video game this year.
There's
Mario
a whole
Wonder.
like there's all kinds of Barbie clothes now that you can buy and all that stuff.
Mario
extra merch, you know.
Like I was looking it up and stuff when we did this draft. Mario was the biggest video game franchise in the world. It brought in so much money.
Zach says no. Zach says it's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon.
No, it's not. Not in terms of revenue, at least.
I don't know. Pokemon, I think, is the most. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think you're wrong.
I don't know, dude. Every Pokemon game.
I had stats, bro.
So much.
Mario's just really accessible to a lot of people because there's really no talking in Mario. So you don't have to convert it into different languages. It's just ready to go in every country in the world.
Yeah. I don't disagree that Pokemon's very popular, but I'm pretty sure in terms of revenue, Mario is the highest.
It might be.
And that's why I drafted the movie, because I figured it would have a pretty big pull.
Which was brilliant. And I was shitting my pants when Mario...
You didn't even have it on your list, right? And I didn't have Barbie on my list.
No, I didn't write it down. I mean, obviously Mario's a contender, but I didn't write it down for my list. And
yeah,
man, what a miss. We both missed Oppenheimer too.
I feel like looking at the picks here, like I would have not have guessed that Barbie and Super Mario's would have made the most money.
It's wild. Yeah.
Do you guys think that Aquaman Lost Money will make more money than the Marvels?
God, I hope so. But I don't know, man, because the reviews haven't been good. 1, 2, there's like 10 movies that literally just came out yesterday, both on streaming and in theaters. So why would people go see this if people haven't been talking good
This is
about
about
it?
to be on HBO Max in like 5 weeks.
Yeah, maybe 4. Like,
But just for our audio listeners, I'm going to read some of these numbers because we have some followers on Spotify. We mentioned that you'll be able to see it on screen if you're watching on any of our video platforms. You can even see it on Spotify if you look. But if you're driving or what have you, my name's Andrew. I have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Fast X, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Barbie, with a total gross from all those movies of $3.88 billion. And then, Aaron, do you want to recap your team? Broad strokes?
hello, my name's Aaron, and I have the losing team of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Little Mermaid, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, The Marvels, and Aquaman Lost Money. And that brought me to a total of $2.981 billion.
So about $900 million gap between us as of right now. Hopefully Aquaman can make $900 million.
Which it was possible, right? Because I had the Marvels, which could have made 500, 600. That wouldn't have been a stretch, like at the beginning of the year when we made this draft. And then having Aquaman do the same, another $500, 600, $1 million movie, like
another movie that made $1 billion on the prequel.
Yeah, like we literally could have been like within hundreds of millions of dollars, but then these two movies just tanked hard.
What's crazy to me, I think Aquaman's gonna set a record for like most money between the Aquaman 1 and Aquaman 2. Like I don't know.
Drop off.
Every movie
The Marvels might.
Yeah, the Marvels is right
Oh,
there.
yeah, 'cause
Either the Marvels or Aquaman, and I got them on my team.
Luckily, Aaron.
They're setting records. My team is setting records, baby.
But if you want to see a full breakdown, Aaron has a breakdown here on the screen now. If you are listening, you can check out the budget and gross for each of those 10 movies we just mentioned and see the details.
When we do our box office draft recap as well for this year, I want to pull out like a bunch of stats, like have all the Rotten
Opening
Tomatoes
weekends.
score, all of the opening weekends, all of the IMDb scores. So like
numbers on numbers.
I really want to try to like dive into these 10 movies that we picked and really see how we did in comparison to like the top 10 movies of the year and see how many of those we actually drafted.
I'm
Now,
excited to see your guys' picks for next year.
I'm excited to do it. It's going to be fun, even though I'm not I'm not as excited for the year of movies of
Right.
2024 so far. But with this box office here wrapped up, I would like to end this episode getting us a little bit back on track to Aquaman. I wanted to talk to you guys about how you thought Aquaman ended the DCEU as we know it, and what your thoughts are looking forward to 2025 when we're starting James Gunn's DCEU, starting with Zach.
I was gonna say, can I go first? I thought that overall the movie was good, but it left a very sour taste in my mouth that the last scene of the DCEU, which had some great parts, was Orm eating a cockroach. I did not like that at all. It felt like, I don't know, I guess you could say a slap in the face. Like they didn't pay any kind of tribute to any of, the past characters, and there's no like, this is the end. You can tell this is the end. It was like, okay, this is arguably the dumbest post-credit scene I've ever seen.
It's literally James Gunn just being like, get this movie out. I don't even care.
It's probably the worst post-credit scene I've ever seen, too.
Yeah. And then as far as looking towards the future, I am like stoked and so excited to see like the first tidbits of the DCU kind of start to come out, and our first look at Superman's suit and the first trailer for Superman. I'm excited for Creature Commandos. I cannot wait to see this get the ball start rolling on this new universe, but I have a conspiracy. I don't actually think that's
going to come out at all?
No.
You heard it here.
I don't think that Jason Momoa is gonna play Aquaman anymore, but the last two DC movies have hinted. You could look at parts of them as hints towards him being Aquaman in the new universe, because in The Flash, Barry Allen says to him, I've traveled a whole bunch of multiverses, and like most of the time, Jason Momoa is Aquaman. So then if you look at that could be a hint that like, hey, he's going to be one of the characters that carries over into the new universe. And then at the end of this one, I'm pretty sure the last line is, I am Aquaman, which is like, you could look at that as a hint of saying like, I'm Aquaman still.
There's also chain throwing in Aquaman 1 when he throws the chain around Black Manta's face, and Orm throws a giant chain in this, and Lobo uses a chain. So if we're really digging in deep,
that seems like more of a stretch to me. I feel like mine are actual breadcrumbs of like
him saying I am Aquaman is more of an actual breadcrumb
than a chain. Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. I think
won't,
they need to just get rid of everyone and start completely over.
We already know that's not going to happen.
I know, and I'm saying that that's what they should do. They just start over.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to start fresh. Have none of the old stink on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I wish
it doesn't
they would've
even
just
seem
started
like
over.
Jason Momoa wants to be or ever wanted to be Aquaman.
He originally auditioned for Batman. Did you guys hear him say
Yes, for Batman, and then he went in, got a call back, and he thought it was like for a villain or something. They're like, no, you're going to be Aquaman. And he's like, what? So like I don't know. I don't feel his like love for the character to continue into another
iteration
franchise,
especially
of
after
it, like
not going to make any money and stuff.
This
I genuinely don't think he will.
okay. You don't have to rub it in my face. Sheesh, man.
But
It's personal now.
I think
Okay.
an argument could be made that people could believe that he might continue to play Aquaman.
I think it would have been funny if they ended it with I am Aquaman, no post-credit scene, and then he's back as Lobo.
I would have loved to see.
That would have been funny, right? Like, I am Aquaman. Just kidding.
Lobo.
Just kidding.
If they showed a scene of him as Lobo, it would have been a billion times better of a post-credit.
Did you guys see recently there was a comic panel where Lobo was dressed as Aquaman?
No,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we'll look it up. But people were like, they're confirming it.
I think they should start all over.
I agree. I wish they would have gone just completely new. Because
No recasting.
Viola Davis is
Same
great
characters.
as Amanda Waller, and John Cena's great as Peacemaker. But it's like,
Is that
why
necessary?
are those two the ones that get carried over? Like, it doesn't really, I don't know.
Just recast
'Cause
everybody, but
they
keep
worked
Henry
with
Cavill.
they
the
worked
same.
with him before, with James Gunn before, I guess.
So are they gonna keep like their Harley Quinn and Bloodsport and like all this stuff too? It's very that's what's annoying about
I
it.
think that Harley Quinn will probably still be Margot Robbie because
Really?
Yeah,
You think
well-
she's going to do that role for another 5, 10, 15 years?
probably.
I don't think so.
Just because one, Barbie made so much money that,
Which is why I think
James
that
Gunn
should
is
be pulled
probably
away
like-
from it even more.
but it's a guaranteed. I mean, not like she's not going to be, getting work or whatever, but it's a guaranteed paycheck for kind of not a whole lot of like stress.
I think they could give it to someone else. They could also give it to someone else for cheaper, which means they could put that money towards making the rest of the movie even better,
I could see it go either way because if I'm James Gunn and Margot Robbie just headlined a movie that made over $1 billion, that's star power that I would want access to.
Well,
But-
then just keep the DCU how you have it. Just fix it.
You're keeping all
yeah,
these
like-
actors.
You can't because, like, one, there's
You can do whatever you want.
Well, you could.
These
but
rules are just made up.
There's problems with so many of the actors from the first one, whether Ben Affleck is getting too old and he doesn't,
Ezra Miller's a criminal.
Ezra Miller's a criminal. The back and forth with Henry Cavill, like the bad blood.
The problem
between-
with Henry Cavill is just the studio.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. The back and forth
Yeah.
of them saying like blackout Superman's face for 4 different appearances.
Do you want
Then-
Margot to
so-
be the next Harley Quinn?
No, I mean I think they should go with somebody who's like, and not that she's old, but go with somebody younger, so that way you can
Stick
use
with
that
them for-
character
I mean, like,
for a lot longer.
Yeah, she's not that old now. What is she, in her 30s probably?
Yeah,
I mean, in 15 years, she'll be 45, let's say, like that's getting up there, for carrying an action franchise,
I think
I mean, we got 50, 60-year-olds doing it, like John Wick, Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible. It's Equalizer.
Yeah.
How old is Denzel?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
studio, they don't care. They'll keep pumping out movies.
true.
They just don't let women do it, honestly, which is unfair.
Yeah.
The
that's
age
true.
standard's very different.
But I
from
mean, we were even
Hollywood.
talking about how we want like a younger Batman, to kind of fill out this
And I agree.
universe.
I would
like,
want a new, fresh face for Harley Quinn too.
Yeah.
that's just a separate conversation. Is like how long you'll let somebody carry a torch.
Yeah. And it's not even like, okay, she'll be old then, but like she's already one of the top actresses in the world. Like, why would she do this again? She's already done it. She already did it really well. Like, I feel like she personally, or I would want to move on. Like, hey, this didn't work. I did my best. I'm doing really good over here in Barbie
It's like-
and everything else that I'm going to touch.
It's like Christian Bale. It's like there's no way in my mind they didn't approach him for that end scene in The Flash. That had to be the first pick. And why would he do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's Christian Bale too. He's very like artsy, So I agree. I don't think he would have been like, yeah, I'll come back for this.
He is. I mean, he also did Terminator Salvation. Like it's not like he's unwilling.
Yeah,
to
he does
do-
other big action.
But I feel like to him, it's kind of like the Chris Evans thing. Is like that Batman story was pretty much is like
Is good and
it's
done,
wrapped,
complete.
it's
Yeah.
complete. So he doesn't have any like real desire to come back yet.
He only has a desire to come back if Chris Nolan comes back. And
But
thank
you never
goodness.
know. And
It would be pretty epic, even in like 10 years from now. They do just a one-off movie. It's still in the Dark Knight universe, no other universe.
The Dark Knight Returns
That'd be
with the
sick.
mutants, and they bring
sick.
Chris Nolan back directing like
Dude,
that'd be
a futuristic
epic.
Gotham.
You never know, man. Who would have thought that we would ever see Michael Keaton play Batman again? You
Yeah.
know? Or even crazier, you could argue. Who would have thought we'd ever see George Clooney like reprise his role? Obviously, he wasn't suited up as Batman.
Yeah.
But who would have thought that he would be like he's publicly apologized for Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Who would have thought he'd want to like dip his toes back in that?
Right.
So in 15, 20 years, we might see this DCEU kind of cast of characters.
How crazy would that
come
be,
back
though?
in some
Another
shape.
Christopher Nolan Batman movie.
They'll never do it, but it's awesome.
I don't know why they wouldn't, because it would make money.
They might, if it's like in his own universe, Nolan has 100% control.
But they also
just paint as Batman
studios
4.
won't do that anymore. They won't do 100% control, and that's what Nolan requires. But they
15
they,
years.
They ended it with.
I mean,
him,
they already have Matt Reeves, and he kind of seems to be 100% in control of his world.
They ended it with him, like passing the baton and living this like peaceful life out with Catwoman. Like
Well-
it would be undoing the ending to their perfect trilogy.
But that, well, I mean,
it's like
yes
the-
and no, just like the Dark Knight.
Do a live
Returns.
action Batman Returns, like you said.
I mean, I would
was
love to
sick.
see it, but
he was
already-
like
they
he
already
was old in that one,
yeah.
retired and stuff.
they already used elements of like
Yeah,
the
and-
Dark Knight Rises is obviously inspired by Dark Knight Returns in like a lot of senses, but
Because he's like, you got no cartilage left in your knees, and
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lines from the Dark Knight Returns in Dark Knight Rises.
Andrew, you just have to speak it in the world so it happens. Okay, I don't appreciate your negativity towards this.
I think it would be awesome. I'd go see it for sure.
I mean, hell yeah, I'd go to see
Absolutely.
it.
If there's still theaters in 15 years.
Don't speak that into existence.
All right. Anything else to wrap up this
I
long
enjoyed.
episode?
I enjoyed Aquaman. I'd recommend you at least see it once.
I enjoyed Aquaman because I got to watch it with my friends. I do not recommend.
This was also
You
yeah.
gotta watch
This was
it
like
once.
the first time we've got to hang out in like
Ages.
months.
Yeah.
Well, other than birthday parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very grateful to anyone that stayed to the end of this episode, our like longest episode of all time. One of.
It's one of, yeah. It's not the longest.
I definitely appreciate
pretty
it.
close.
We love having Zach on the show to talk about movies, so it tends to go longer with
I
the
love
three of
being
us.
here.
And we like talking about superhero movies, especially. So
The only way that Zach will come back on the show, though, he told us off the air, is that if you hit the subscribe and like button.
Yeah,
If you
it's
don't,
true.
then Zach won't be back and you'll have to listen to just Andrew and I, which we know that's not what you
we're
want.
very negative. No, but
You've got a little positivity in your life.
although we've been negative on the Aquaman, me and Aaron do always like to qualify with the fact that we know nobody sets out to make a subpar movie. We know everyone, they try to put their heart and soul into it. We discussed some of the production issues they had with Aquaman 2, a lot of reshoots. The editing, the special effects team, cinematography, cast, directing, producers, they all did their best, I'm sure, to try and make a movie that people would enjoy.
Yep.
Me and Aaron, I think, and Zach too, even didn't particularly enjoy it, but that doesn't mean that a lot of people didn't work hard on it. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard.
congratulations to them for finishing the movie
Yeah.
that we weren't sure was going to get put out. We thought it might get shelved.
It's hard to make a movie, let alone a good movie, and even harder to make a great movie. And that's everyone's expectations of movies, is that they want it to be great.
I'm going to spend,
And that's really hard to live up to.
$13 and drive out of my way.
Yeah, it's really hard to live up to. So,
Expectations to enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
like Andrew, congratulations for everyone getting this movie done. I do think, like, for some audiences, this could be like a really good movie. Like, I could see watching this like younger, like 8, 9, 10, and just absolutely loving this movie. Like we talked about, there's a lot of bright colors, a lot of cool action, you know, like
A lot of cool
little funny
monsters.
jokes in there. Like, as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, I feel like I'd love this
Yeah,
movie.
I mean, I compared it to Hellboy: The Golden Army, which is a movie that I loved. I still like it because I watched it when I was 8.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
watching this movie much older.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we should wrap it up here. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. It helps the channel out, and it also helps us justify bringing Zach back on the show. Thanks for watching. We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and that's a wrap.